I want to share the recipe of homemade Indian style pickle, green mango or raw mango pickle. Now, I wanted to learn how to make this for multiple reasons, but the biggest reason being that when I found out that even my favorite pickle brand that I used to get from the Indian store has sodium benzoate in it as a preservative, then I was like, oh my god, like I need to stop eating this. Not that I was eating a lot of it, but my family loves it and I used to occasionally eat it too. And I was really surprised that even this brand contains sodium benzoate. Then when I went and did a quick check on all the other brands that are available in the Indian store, grocery store, and I found that all of them have some preservative, mostly sodium benzoate. So what does that mean? Sodium benzoate, in itself is bad for you because it's not good for human consumption, it prevents the growth of the microorganisms and it's harmful for humans as well. Now, when it prevents the growth of organisms, what that means in addition is that there's no probiotic value to these pickles, because probiotic means your good bacteria, right? So they also need a medium to grow. But if a preservative is thrown in there, then that means it kills all the organisms. So there is no good bacteria in there. So they add preservative because it's not made in the traditional way that pickles need to be made, like how I'm going to show you. Because if it's made in the right way, then it will have the probiotic content, plus it will not allow the growth of any bad bacteria. So that itself will act as a preservative, because that's how our grandmothers did. In fact, this is my grandmother's recipe, my paternal grandmother's recipe that I learned from my cousin sister Sanu. So thank you, Sanu, for sharing this recipe with me. What I have done is I have reduced the amount of spices and chili powder, especially because I can't handle a lot of heat now. Because I don't eat a lot of rice. I eat rice only occasionally, and then when I eat pickle with vegetables, then it just like burns my stomach. So that's why in this recipe I've really reduced the amount of spices. So it's not exactly from a spices perspective, it's not exactly my grandma's recipe, but you can definitely add more chili powder and spices to make it the way you like it. But it has all the spices, they're just in reduced quantity. Alright, the other good thing is you can use actual good quality oil for the pickle when you make it at home, versus the store-bought pickles which have like bad oils in them. As well as you can use good quality salt, like sea salt, like Himalayan pink salt or other sea salt, versus any store-bought pickle has like tons of salt, but that's like bad white salt, which is just sodium chloride, so you don't want that. So let's see how to make pickles the traditional way. Okay, so the most important thing for making a mango pickle is to get green raw mangoes. Now I get them from the Indian store. Now in general in the US, what you get, even at the Indian store, the raw or green mango sometimes end up being sweet. See, the first one that I cut actually is yellow inside, which is sweet, so I'm not going to use that. The next one hopefully is, so this is white in color, and this one is sour, so that's what we need. Now I'm going to cut it into small pieces. The size of it you can decide. I'm keeping them like roughly chopped. I was a bit lazy actually. You could cut it even smaller, but you can use even the middle part of it. Just throw away the seed, but you can use all the rest of it. So here I have all of them chopped, and the skin is there. You can retain the skin. And now I'm just using an earthen pot here. You can just use any mixing bowl or pot, doesn't matter. Earthen pot or clay pot is good because it absorbs the water. So now to this we are going to add 1 tablespoon of sea salt. So this was like 1 mango, as you saw. And to that I'm adding 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder. and I'm just going to mix it by hand, so that all the mango is coated with all the salt and turmeric. And now in this first step, we are going to let this sit for a day, overnight for about 24 hours. So I'm going to cover and keep and let it sit. So it has been sitting for 24 hours. Now, as you can see at the bottom, there's water, so it lets out water. Now, because this is a clay pot, some of it is already gone, but I just drained the water, and now I'm going to actually spread it on a paper towel. So I have a tray, baking tray here, and over that I have put paper towels, and you can just use a regular cloth towel too, but since it has turmeric in it, I have just used paper towels, and I'm going to let it sit at room temperature and air dry it for a couple hours so that all the moisture is gone from those mango pieces. So this is an important step. When you are trying to make pickles, you don't want any moisture in it. Now I am heating up some oil. I'm using extra virgin olive oil here, half a cup. To that I'm adding 1 teaspoon of fenugreek or methi seeds. As soon as they splutter, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds to it. Now turn the heat on low and adding green chilies, slightly 1 or 2, and then curry leaves and garlic or cloves. I have 4 garlic cloves that are cut thinly sliced. So I'm going to lightly saute that for about 1 to 2 minutes. And next I'm adding the spices. So I'm adding 2 teaspoons of Kashmiri chili powder here. You can add more if you wanted more heat. I'm adding 1 more teaspoon of turmeric, and then here I have 2 teaspoons of fenugreek seeds powdered and 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds powdered, and those I'm adding in as well. Now I'm going to turn the heat off and let this oil mixture cool because it's very hot now. After the oil has been cooled, I'm adding 1 more tablespoon of salt, sea salt, 2 more tablespoons of sea salt to this. And now this is like, it's still slightly warm, but at least it's not very hot. And I'm going to now add our mango pieces to this and mix it well. So the oil is still a little bit warm, but it's not very hot, mind you. Again, it's important that the oil not be very hot because we are trying to create a fermentation process. If it's very hot, then that will not allow the growth of the bacteria, even the probiotic bacteria. It has to be like warm but not hot. Okay, and now we are going to add like a little bit of sesame oil. So I just drizzled slightly, but it's about 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. So this also gives a lot of flavor to the pickle or the achar. And now basically we have to keep this aside and let that process start, the fermentation. So you can now transfer it into your jar, a glass jar or a ceramic jar. That is ideal for pickle making. So I'm using a glass jar here. So I'm just transferring all of that mixture into this glass jar. And now because the pieces are still very raw, they are hard and they are more bulky, so it's taking up like a lot of space in the jar. And because of that, even though you have added oil, which is quite enough, like it seemed like a lot of oil, but see, when you put it in a jar, what happens is the oil is not sufficient to cover all the pieces. So that is the reason. What we are going to do now is we are going to add some more oil. And so I'm just adding like around about 2 more tablespoons of the same extra virgin olive oil. I'm just going to add it over here. So again, why I'm adding this oil is because we want all the pieces to be under a layer of oil. That way no bad bacteria or fungus will grow. We only want the good bacteria to grow, but we don't want bad stuff to grow. And that is why that layer of oil, as well as all the salt that we have added, is going to help that process. So now so now basically we have to keep this aside for a few days. So make sure all the pieces are buried in that oil, and then what we will do is basically just cover this jar with a cloth. Don't put the actual lid, but just like a towel like what I have, and you can tie it with a rubber band so that it stays in place, and then you just leave it on your counter for about 7 days or so. So I had kept it for 7 days. Now you can see how the oil is, like you can see a lot of oil on top, right? So that is happening because now as the days pass, the pieces kind of shrink, the mango pieces, and they also soften up, and then you can see a lot of oil on top. So we don't want that much oil in our pickle, so I am going to remove some of the oil. Now you might think that's a waste of the oil, but actually it's not a waste. You can use that oil to make vegetables sabji. You can use it in your cooking because it's just flavored oil. So I'm not going to throw that oil, and I'm going to use that oil. But this way I can make sure that we get a probiotic value, plus that there is no danger of any other thing growing in the pickle. Okay, so that's why that process was there. Now there's enough adequate oil now, because the pieces are still, if you press it down hard, you can see a layer on top. Now finally I'm also adding 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to this. Now this step is optional. This vinegar will further aid the process and make it the mango pieces softer. But naturally too, if you continue to let it stay outside at room temperature, that will happen over time. But I'm using apple cider vinegar, which is also has a probiotic in it.
This has
and
been
so
sitting for about 2 weeks now. So your pickle will be ready in a week. I just let it sit a little bit longer, and it is actually pretty soft now, as you can see. So even though there's extra oil on top, which is good quality oil, right? As I said, this is using extra virgin olive oil, so it's not an issue. But even though, even if you don't want to use all that oil, you can not use it and just eat the mango. But see, the mango has become really soft, and you can easily eat it. It's like really soft, and it's basically ready for you for consumption. You can continue to let it sit on the kitchen counter, but when you do that, make sure that you first of all always use a dry spoon. Do not use any wet spoon to put inside it, no moisture. And then every time you close it, make sure that there is a layer on top, so then that way you can be sure that there won't be any bad bacteria or fungus growing. Alright, so that's the reason you use the extra oil.
hope you like this video. I hope you try to make this pickle. Let me know how it turned out for you, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.